PodcastOne presents the Steve Austin Show Classics.
Hey everybody, I'm talking to Jim Johnston, the creative force behind all the WWE superstar music. Jim, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How about you?
Hell, I'm hanging out. I'm doing good out here in Los Angeles, California. The weather is absolutely beautiful, as you and I were talking before you came on the air. I think it's a cold, brutal day over there. Am I correct?
It is winter in New England, yes.
Winter in New England. Hey, man, do you live in Stamford?
No, I live in the next town over in Greenwich.
Okay. Gee, you're over there with the rich folks.
Yeah.
They paying you good money to write all these WWE superstar themes.
Well, if you work for someone for 85 years, eventually it adds up.
You're not living next to Vince, are you?
Oh, God. No, he would not allow that.
So you're not in that part of Greenwich?
No, I'm not in that neighborhood.
Hey, Jim, let's talk a little bit about this because I remember when I first walked in the doors, you and I kind of hit it off right off the bat. I'm a big music fan. Obviously, you've been doing this for a long time. You've been in WWE since 1985?
Yeah, since right around WrestleMania 1. Yeah, it was an interesting time because there really wasn't music in the show, per se. It was coming off all the years where it was a lot of different territories, different groups around the country, and Vince's dad up in this area, and it was basically two guys walked out to the ring and did their business and walked out, and a little pause, and the next two guys walked out.
Well, tell me about when you first walked in the doors over there, because, obviously we're looking at a different landscape, but obviously that was the mid-'80s, and wrestling was extremely hot. Hulkamania was going on. So when you walked into the company, what was the atmosphere? Because you had been working for, like, MTV, VH1, right, prior to this?
Yeah, I was doing all sorts of the things you do at the beginning of a career when you're trying to do whatever you can to get known and create a reel and do anything, but driven by the passion of you just want to write music, which was the case for me. But I walked in. I walked in because I'm a sushi fan. Back then, sushi was not nearly as popular as it is now. So there was one sushi bar in town, and it was like hanging out at some little local bar. So you would see the same 8 people there every time you went.
Right.
I befriended this one guy who turned out to be Vince's art director at the time, and he knew I was a composer. And one night came in and said, "Wow, my boss asked me to do this tape for the NAPI convention. The NAPI convention, for your listeners, is all the cable TV operators and providers get together and talk about projects."
Yeah.
And Vince wanted to do his first presentation there and needed a video, so he asked Brian to put something together. Brian knew how to do the video part, didn't know anything about the music part, asked me to contribute. Vince heard the music, liked it. Vince and I met. Vince and I hit it off immediately, and we just started doing different things, and I would throw a piece of music at him, or he would just call me up and say, "Hey, write something for, describe a character." I think Vince and I got along musically, and I think, Steve, I speculate you're the same, that music is about emotion and feeling.
Right.
And so I could always give Vince closest to what he wanted when I could feel what he was feeling, feel what he wanted to feel when a guy came into the ring.
Right.
And I think that's everything. It's a multi-purpose thing. Taking your tune before you come out, it's got to pump you up and get you in the right place, and then the crowd, and then the relationship between you and the crowd. And I think the music is when it's working correctly and well, that's the glue that makes it really exciting, because the music is speaking to your character, but it's also getting everyone just fired up and feeling that moment, and that's my main goal in every case. Now,
when I looked, there was y'all had listed almost 2,500 songs, Jim. The data I had was 2,484 songs, whether it was either bumpers, front ends, back ends, or just themes in general. So would that number be correct, the songs you've written since you've been there?
I think it's a lot more than that because
that's what I figured. But I mean, what I'm saying, it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot of music. Yeah, it's a lot of music. It's surprising, but it's also, I think about most mainstream artists, and they come out with a new album of 12 songs every year and a half or 2 years, and here in this world, they get cranked out, in a month.
Right.
It's a factory. Well, also remember, other than the news, we're like the only business out there that's 52 weeks a year. And yeah. It never stops.
Yeah.
There is no, you shoot 23 weeks and then you're off until next season. It's 52 weeks. It's live.
I wanted to ask you about the creative process, but before we go there, where did you grow up? Did you grow up right there in that area?
No, my family's from Pocahontas, Arkansas, tiny little town in
Dude, you're from Arkansas?
Yeah, northeastern Arkansas, beautiful area.
Yeah.
Flat land, but farmland. 5 incredible rivers meet in this area. A couple of them are, have been protected as wild rivers. Tremendous fishing.
What, did you grow up as an outdoorsman, fishing, hunting?
Not hunting so much. A little bird hunting early on, but I haven't done it in years. But it's hard for me to get out of this place. But I'm an avid fly fisherman. I just love it. Saltwater, or my favorite is trout. Classic trout fishing out in the mountains. But I grew up learning to fly fish on the rivers down there for smallmouth bass.
So how did you end up over in the Connecticut area?
My dad got a job in New York City, and so we came up and we lived in White Plains, New York for a while. And then, what you were saying earlier about, you live in Greenwich. Greenwich, it's a beautiful place to live. It's a really nice town, but it isn't like everyone who lives there is wealthy.
I got you.
when we moved here, we rented a house for a year in White Plains, and my dad found a lot over in Greenwich, and he got here on borrowed money from his dad. So he had found this beautiful little area, but he could barely afford to build a house and buy the lot. And this elderly man who was retiring offered him at the time, this is a long time ago, of course, but still, 11 lots in Greenwich, in what turned out to be this private area for $11,000.
Wow!
And he couldn't do it. He could barely afford the one.
Right.
Boy, I'd like to have that deal. That would be good.
So, growing up as a kid, were you always musically inclined? Did you get into any sports, or it was just like you were a musical guy and you started taking piano classes? What got you started doing this, Jim?
Avid sports. I love sports, but it was a different time, and I think it's something I feel bad about for kids these days, because it was kids I see their time is so planned, and it's well intended. Parents want them to do well and be exposed to a lot of stuff, but they don't get a lot of creative time where you just go out into the woods with your friends and you create a fort and you attack there, and you got to make up all your fun is coming out of your own imagination. I think that's an important part of development, and I certainly was fortunate enough to be brought up that way, and I think that had a bearing. I always loved music. My grandmother on my dad's side actually was a very talented musician who, of all things, had gone to Juilliard to study opera, and then ended up back in Pocahontas because women didn't make the decisions back then. My dad had an organ in the house and that he would tinker around on, but I just was fascinated. I'd listen to the music that they would play on records, and I didn't necessarily like it, but I just was fascinated by how it went together and the melodies and everything. So finally I got my dad to rent me a guitar, because he wasn't sure I was really serious about it.
Right.
Rented a guitar for 3 or 6 months or something, and I just practiced literally until my fingers bled.
So you taught yourself to play?
Completely self-taught. Yeah, I'm a complete.
Did you take any music lessons?
In school, I played, trumpet in the school band and took a couple of piano lessons, but hated it so much and finally convinced my mom to let me stop. But I would, when the Beatles came out, I'd have this really horrible little, I'm sure, your older listeners will remember, little crappy phono player that was like a little suitcase.
Yeah.
And it just, the speaker was in the little box. It just sounded horrible, but it was great because you could vary the speed from 45 to 33. Yeah. So I'd get my favorite records. Basically, I learned on the Beatles. I would get their records. I would slow them down. First, I would teach myself the guitar parts, and then the bass parts. And I didn't have a set of drums, but I would learn the drum parts just on books on my desk, and that's the way I learned. And then when Paul McCartney, about 3-4 albums in, started playing piano, actually George Martin was really playing the piano most of the time at that point, then I couldn't get enough piano, and I'd just sit there and learn all the piano parts as well. So
you ended up teaching yourself how to play the piano more so than the lessons.
Everything. And then when I got into the actual business, I would learn each new instrument as I needed it. I would need to I needed a flute part. So I would, either borrow or eventually found a way to buy a flute, and I'd learn to play that one part. And so I just kept picking up different instruments along the way, and that's pretty much still the way I work today. I do, on all these tracks, I play almost all the instruments myself. It's just the singers that I get in.
But back then, it doesn't sound like you could read or write music, but you could play it, and you had a good ear to learn it and teach it to yourself. But now, with so many years into the business, I'm guessing you do know how to read and write music now, correct?
I can read it, but it's literally I can read it. I'm like a piano. If you give me a piece of piano music, I can't just sit down the piano and play it.
That's very interesting to me. All the stuff that you've written, I mean, that's incredible.
It's still science fiction to me, but like the scoring the movies, which is really my favorite thing to do. My favorite is orchestral music. That's when it comes into play, and that's when I have to get help. So for all those movies, I had a manuscript guy who would take my files and write out all the parts for the musicians. Now, fortunately, you get a lot of help from computers these days, that the parts I play into the computer, I can then spit out what's called a MIDI file or a rough score so that the guy knows what I'm talking about.
But does he have to listen to it and basically translate that into
No, he gets a file with all the notes in the right places, and he just has to clean it all up, make sure I haven't screwed up, and then adds all the dynamics for the orchestra players, like crescendos and the trombone should play really, really big here, and we want the strings really quiet here. So in orchestral manuscripts, there are all these little markings that tell the players exactly how you, not just the note, but how you want that note played.
Right.
It's a pretty laborious process, but I'm so fascinated by it, and I love it.
Well, I was reading that, I just figured, okay, man, maybe Jim grew up in a band and he was playing all these concerts as a kid. But you've stated in some of your past interviews that you had stage fright and you didn't really care too much for live audiences.
To this day, I'm nervous playing a song for my wife.
Really? Why is that?
I'm pretty much a believer that artists are inherently insecure, and they either cover it up or not cover it up. They either deal with it by being the extremes. You're either incredibly shy and insecure, and that's me, or you're incredibly flamboyant. And I think that's what happens when we read in the entertainment news about, someone who's a big movie star and they do these things on screen or on Broadway, or that's just incredible, incredible work, or very flamboyant. But then in their private lives, they seem really weird. They're almost reclusive.
Right.
And I think that's that dynamic at work, is that they're actually really insecure, because I guess what you do is such a personal thing. It's like if I've grown a thicker skin relative to, you have to survive, but at the same time, if I play something for someone and they don't like it, it's a very personal thing. So it's not like saying I don't like that piece of music. It's like I don't like you.
Right.
Because if you like that piece of music, then you don't like what I'm feeling inside.
Right.
So it's hard to separate the two.
Oh, man, that's so interesting. So I know you listened to some Beatles. You were learning to play guitar, but what else? What were some of the go-to bands that you really dug back then, along with the Beatles?
Jimi Hendrix. I just studied his guitar work endlessly. Loved Led Zeppelin. All over the map, Steve. I really love great writers.
Right.
James Taylor, Sting, people who write traditional great songs and melodies, I love. But like Black Eyed Peas, I think they have a gift for writing really simple but really catchy stuff. No doubt, Gwen Stefani. I don't know. These are just popping into my head. I'm fascinated by anyone's music, really. The only stuff that I don't like screaming too much. I don't like the rock stuff,
right.
Real metal where it's like Cookie Monster, because there's no melody there. I always feel, Steve, that at the end of the day, if a piece of music is good, even if you're going to cover it in a style that is blazingly hard, to be a good song, you should be able to play it on an acoustic guitar or on a piano, and it should still make sense. It should still hold up as a song.
Right.
And I feel, unfortunately, a lot of stuff these days it's all about the production. And if you took away that production, you're not left with much of a composition. And I'm not dissing the people in production, because a lot of the productions are fabulous, and it's a testament that they can make stuff be that catchy and that successful when there's really no foundation back in there. But at the same time, I'm a little bit of a purist in that. I guess I would argue, take your theme as an example. I think it sounds really cool when you come out in the arena.
Yep.
But I think it sounds really cool when I play it by myself on an acoustic guitar. Sounds like a great little groove.
Right.
So that's what I try to do when I write, is to have everything start with a good foundation, or a really good groove, and then you can take it anywhere. Once you have that, then it could be a rock song. You could do a hip-hop version of it. You could do an R&B version. You could do a girl ballad version of it. You could do a country version of it. It's because the bones are there, and you're just deciding what set of clothes to put on it.
Well, you brought up my music, so Stacy, hit it. Oh, hell yeah. I think you get the message there. Talking to Jim Johnston, my good buddy over at WWE, who creates all the music for all the WWE superstars. Jim, I came to you way back in the day, and we were talking a little bit about my music, and I brought you Bulls on Parade by Rage Against the Machine. I said, hey, man, I kind of dig this. And that's all I said, and then you went into the cave, and you did what you did, and you created that song. That song is probably, in my opinion, of course, I'm very close to this guy, Stone Cold Steve Austin, probably the greatest entrance theme ever written. The glass breaking, the sirens coming in on the back end, just the beat that says power. And when that glass broke, I could be having the worst day of my life. As soon as that glass broke, mister, I was ready to go out there and whip somebody's ass. I was always in the mood when my music hit. And the thing about it is, I got so many great pops, and of course it's a testament to the great storylines, the angles, the machine that was pushing me, the persona that I was, and I was doing my end of it. But that the way that music started instantaneously, and I came right out of the curtains at that same instant, it just made for some tremendous entrances all across the world, and people really dig this song. Let's talk about the creative process behind the Stone Cold theme music.
Well, okay, but I'm going to interrupt you here 1 second. An interesting thing that happens over the years is my writing these themes is a little bit like a dance, and you got to have a dance partner. You're a great dance partner because you can go with the theme and you make it. It's like the music is a fuse, but you came out and made the thing explode because you were there, and it's great, and I'm thrilled, and it's a great compliment that it helped get you ready. But once you were ready, man, once you came out, the combination of you and that music was like it just was magic, but because it was like. There's going to be trouble. I don't know what the problem's going to be, but there's going to be a problem.
But it started with that song, though, just as far as me making my entrance. And, of course, after the song is born, then it goes over to the guys in the video, and they make your entrance reel, which they display on a big Titantron, which only ups the ante about 10 times and really totally feeds into that adrenaline machine. But just a creation from it. I mean, and I hit my BMF stride, my BMF walk. As I walked to the ring, I was sending out a message to that guy in the ring that I was about to go out there and whoop some ass, and everybody that was in that arena knew I was going to do that. But the rhythm of that song was just perfect that I matched it stride for stride as I swaggered down to the ring to do my business. So when you saw a little bit about me. Of course, I'd come in as a ringmaster. It didn't work out so great. And then we come up with the Stone Cold gimmick. You get the green light. Hey, Stone Cold Steve Austin needs a theme song. You and I talk for 30 seconds. So what was the creative process? Why the glass break?
The glass break came after I wrote the music because I knew it just needed something that was like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's, oh, my God.
What is a sound that would get everyone's attention, and there is no way to read it except that there's a problem? It isn't like you can't possibly read it like, a glass broke. No, it's like there's a huge problem, and I also needed a huge glass break, so I couldn't find good glass breaks. So the sound is a combination of two glass breaks, an explosion, and a car crash. But because of all the high frequency energy of the glass, it mainly sounds like glass, but
right.
It sounds like a horrific piece of glass going. In writing your theme, I just knew I had to screw around until something felt angry. Just something, it just sounded angry. And as I've mentioned before in either interviews or articles, that to me the whole creative process is I'm a pretty spiritual guy, so it's like a faith issue. I feel like I'm a conduit, and the faith issue is that I've got to sit there with a guitar. It's like a deal.
Yeah.
I got to sit there with a guitar and keep playing until something shows up, and that if I'll have the faith to keep sitting there and keep playing, something will show up, and it will be the right thing. And so I'm just screwing around, and then suddenly I start doing this, and I said, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I think what really gives that hop to it is I always try to give it it sounds like a rock song, but there's like a funk element to that song. So there's that. But when I just did that and started recording, I knew it was the right direction, but it didn't come together until I started that harsh, just right on the beat thing over it, right on the beat, and then that made the syncopation of the main guitar groove kind of bounce around and made it seem, suddenly it felt perfect because it was like out of control. It's like, where are we? Is this straight ahead or is it syncopated? I don't know. And and then it goes into this sort of that B section where it's really kind of screwy, like all hell's breaking loose. And, it's like you literally, Steve, it's a strange process. You just keep trying stuff until you go like, okay, that's right. And usually you get to a point where it's right. It's just I don't know.
But so you've got to lay that down in layers and record those layers, and then bring it back to play that to hear the totality of it. Am I correct?
Yes, and because I'm doing it by myself, it's generally like a huge circle. I'll lay down a basic drum beat, and then the basic guitars and bass guitar. And then once those are done, I generally, at that point, I have a much clearer idea of what the drums should be. So I go back and play the drums again. And now with that new, tighter drum groove, then I'll go back and re-record all the guitars and bass. And sometimes I've got to do, 4 round trips in that process before it's right.
So from start to finish, Jim, how long would you guess it took to create my theme music?
Oh, in actual time, 8 hours.
Oh, Jesus. I thought you were going to say like a week or something. That's pretty damn fast.
Well, when it takes too long, you're probably on the wrong road.
Well, that's an interesting thought. I've been on the wrong road of a lot of things. So when you played this for me, I dug it right off the bat. When you played it by Vince, did you give him the drive-by first? Or I can't remember how that presentation went down. What was his thoughts on it?
I probably didn't even present it because at that time, Chris Chambers was doing some vignettes and stuff with you. And so those probably, along with the music, first went to our executive producer, Kevin Dunn.
Yeah.
And, from there, he's playing it for Vince, and generally no news is good news, so I never heard any.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
Do you own a home or condo? Or perhaps you rent a house or apartment? Sure you do, and Geico knows it can be hard work, because whether you own or rent, you still have to fill it full of your stuff, your furniture, the flat screen, and all the boxes of stuff that have been sitting there ever since you moved in, but haven't unpacked. It's hard to find the time, right? But you know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. That way, you'll rest easy knowing that your home and all your stuff is protected, like the furniture and that flat screen. Plus, getting a quote on homeowners and renters insurance is super easy through Geico. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Like going through all those boxes of stuff. Visit geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
Hey, talk to me about the siren a little bit. All of a sudden that comes in there, which I think, you tell me your thoughts on the siren.
I don't think there's a siren in there. I think it's a guitar that sounds like a siren.
Okay. Is that what it is? I always thought it was like a siren in there.
I think that's in sort of that B section, that chaotic section I was talking about. Yeah, it's just a. You know what? I remember now. It's a reversed electric guitar part.
Are you kidding me? I always thought it was a siren. It's a reversed guitar part.
Yeah.
So there's backwards masking on my theme song.
I played a lead, like a sort of a guitar solo thing, and then I wanted to screw it up even more. So about every couple of measures, I would cut up the solo part and reverse it. So it kind of goes back and forth between regular and reverse.
Hey, I love my theme song. I don't think anybody could have done a better job on it. When Disturbed came in and kind of did a remix of that, Jim, what is your involvement on that process? Because you wrote the original song, okay? Who decides it's time to, hey, let's redo this and amp it up a little bit, and all of a sudden it was Disturbed doing that? What was your end on that?
Well, we just had an idea that it would be interesting and fun because right at that time, there were rock was really having a nice resurgence. There were a lot of great young groups around, and it just seemed like a great idea. We wanted to try to go out, reach out to these groups, and try to put together a project of some popular young groups redoing our top superstar themes.
So when those guys go in there to record that, though, are you there? You're giving them directions? Say, no, guys, that ain't it. We got to do this?
On some of them I was, not with Disturbed.
Right.
I was with Saliva and, a few others. But Disturbed, I think we got them into a studio while they were out on tour. So, yeah, I mean, I talk to the guys and give them the basic direction. But you don't need a whole lot of direction in your case because the music's crystal clear and your character's crystal clear. The only time it gets dicey is when you're starting out maybe with a theme that is not already a rock song. Maybe it's some other genre or like a hybrid orchestral thing, and now you're trying to take that over to become a rock song. Then it's a little more challenging. But I thought the matchup of you and Disturbed was pretty straightforward.
All right, Jim, hang on there for a second. Let me stop you there. We're going to pick this back up, but first we got to talk a little bit about DDP Yoga. Now, this is my buddy, Diamond Dallas Page's program, and it's going to make achieving your fitness goals for 2014 real easy. DDP Yoga is a proven workout program that has changed the lives of thousands around the world with a workout plan dedicated to building strength and developing a healthy lifestyle. And it's now being offered to listeners of the Steve Austin Show at a discounted rate. Hey, swig of water for the working man and woman looking to get back in shape in 2014. Hallelujah. So here's what you get with DDP Yoga. You get a grid chart to plan your workouts. You get a nutrition guide and a reference poster with the 12 core positions that make up the DDP Yoga workout. The Max Pack includes 15 workouts that anyone at any level can perform and see results with. You can even download your workouts for exercising on the go. Go to ddpyoga.com/Austin to take advantage of a special offer only available to listeners of the Steve Austin Show. That's ddpyoga.com/Austin to get this deal. But you better get a move on it because this special offer is only available for a limited time. I'm telling you, folks, everybody that I've talked to loves DDP Yoga, and that's all I got to say about that.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
All right, everybody, Steve Austin talking with my buddy Jim Johnston from WWE. Stacy, hit it. One of my favorites.
I know I'm sexy. I've got the looks. That drives while I've got the moves that really move 'em. I said chill up and down their spine. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. I make them hot. I make them shiver. Their knees get weak. Whenever I'm around, they see me walk. They hear me talk. I make them feel like they're on cloud nine. Just a sexy boy.
I'm just a sexy boy talking to Jim Johnston, my main man down there in Stamford, Connecticut. Jim, talk to me about this song. I love this song. It fits Shawn Michaels to a T, and I thought he did an awesome job recording the vocals in there. How did you create this? And you obviously wrote these lyrics, correct?
No, I didn't. But it's a great chance to give a shout-out. This is a Jimmy Hart and J.J. McGuire song.
Really?
Yeah, and they got Shawn in the studio and directed him through doing the vocals. But Jimmy and J.J. wrote a lot of great themes sort of in the earlier years there. And this is one that just, as a testament to how perfect this theme was, is clearly there came a time in Shawn's career where, he wasn't a boy. He was a man.
Right.
And, so there was obviously thought given to, well, maybe it's time that he gets a kind of a grown-up theme. But that's who Shawn Michaels is. That's the power of the music and the relationship between the character and the music is, he's a spectacular talent and another guy who is a tremendous dance partner with his song. And he comes out and literally he plays into that song. And the fact that it's him singing makes it even more spectacular. So a real respectful shout-out to Jimmy Hart and J.J. McGuire on that one.
Jimmy Hart and J.J. McGuire. Well, I never knew that. Now, where did they record the song at?
I think J.J., kind of the musical guy, the hands-on recording guy. And Jimmy, who was part of the trivia here, part of the group, the Gentrys, had a big hit, I think, in the 60s, Keep On Dancing. Jimmy's a good writer, and he also was obviously a talent, so he was in the locker room, and he had a very hands-on feel for people and their vibe and their character, and I think that gave him great insights into what would work for people, and he could pitch them ideas. And in the case like Shawn, not only pitch the idea, but get Shawn in the studio and have him record it. I mean, that was I don't know exactly when that song was recorded, but holy crow, a long time ago. And it still works to this day.
For the listeners of the Steve Austin Show, they learned something new just like I did. I'm wondering if you wrote this one. We're going to talk about it. Go for it, Stacy.
Are you ready? You think you can tell us what to do? You think you can tell us what to wear? You think that you're better? Well, you better get ready. Bow to the masters. Break it down. Degenerate into something cool. We just got tired of doing what you told us to do. That's a freak, boy. Yeah. That's a freak, little man. Break it down. You can tell me what to do.
All right, Jim, I know that's your buddy Chris Warren laying down the vocals, but did you write that song?
Yeah. Oh, I wrote that one, yes.
Oh, hell yeah. I couldn't get two wrong in a row. Tell me about this song, because the D-Generation X was a great combination of talent there that did the stuff in the ring and the shenanigans that they were doing, and they were on fire back in the day. And this was the perfect theme song. And I was reading that you kind of wanted something that kind of teased the people into this rather than just hitting them over the head with a hammer. So tell me about the creative process that went into the theme song for D-Generation X.
Well, looping back to the comment earlier about I'm sort of I can't get away from funk music.
Right.
This is really a funk track that's just turned into a hard rock track. But working with Chris he's just a great guy, and he's always a sport to try anything. So we got the basic track down, and yes, I felt like I wanted it to have a big tease. I didn't know if I could sell it, because most of the time, it's glass break, boom, Undertaker.
Yeah, instant gratification.
But this, I just felt like this needed time to breathe before, and it would make it that much better when you finally pay it off.
Right.
So I didn't know what to do, so I set up this drum loop, just of what you hear, basically, boom, 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 boom. And I put Chris in front of the mic, and then I got on the other side of the mic with a set of headphones, and I just told Chris, I don't care what I say, I'm just going to say a bunch of crap, and I want you to repeat it in your, in that great voice of yours, and that great go screw yourself kind of.
Oh, total attitude voice, yeah.
Yeah, incredible. So I just started thinking of rebellious things to say, that you're not going to hold me back. And we just went through all these things of, you can't tell me what to do. And he would say, you can't tell me what to do. You think you're better. You think you're better.
Yeah.
And so this incredible array of lines. And then after he left, when I was editing the whole thing together and mixing the song, I just kind of took the highlights and created a little storyline up front. And it fortunately sounds like it was cut in one single take. So, but that was so much fun to do, and that's such a fun song.
It's a very fun song. And, of course, once you hear the song and you put all the memories the visuals that those guys provided, and then the guys over there in the I'll call it the video department who put all the footage together and just makes for that entrance reel. It's just totally spectacular. And I was watching, as I was going through all the stuff on YouTube and pulling this stuff up and listening to the music, watching the visuals, and I'd get goosebumps, and it'd take me through a range of emotions of how good these times were. And when you knew when this music hit, you never knew what the hell those guys were going to do, and it was going to be something outrageous, something controversial, and they were always stirring the pot. But it started with the work that those guys were doing. But the music just fit perfectly. Is that you playing every single instrument on that track?
Yes.
Dude, how long did it take you to learn how to play the bass? I mean, because you got you do got some funk in you. Who did you look to as some of your bass players that you've influenced? Bootsy Collins, what's his name? The Johnson guy. You tell me.
I loved Motown. Anything out of Motown when I was growing up, and that was another thing that I would just dissect every single part. And I don't have nearly the chops of those guys, but I did my best to get as close as I could, and I learned a lot from listening to all their stuff. But those kind of funk rhythms, I think, are so infectious. And in this case, I completely agree with you. It worked so well with the DX guys who would come out, and I think there's a magical quality in entertainment. When you sense that the entertainer is having fun, it is almost impossible for you not to have fun.
Right.
Because it's like you're all on a ride together. And so they had sort of mischievous fun, but, man, they could just be torturous to other characters that they were ripping into.
Yeah.
But it was, sometimes you almost felt bad because the other guy was getting so tortured and so embarrassed, but it's just impossible not to laugh your ass off, basically, because it was just so entertaining, incredible entertaining.
It was, I had a great time. You're kind of downplaying your bass chops there, but I want to talk about some lead chops here because there's a couple of riffs in this next tune that are pretty wild. And so hit it, Stacy. Dig this. It's one of my favorites. It just seems like every time that song came on, I was in the corner waiting on Bret to come to the ring, and I was probably going to be in a sharpshooter tapping on the mat or looking up at the lights. I used to love working with Bret Hart. That first pay-per-view, I worked with him, I can't remember if it was Madison Square Garden or wherever it was, and I was just standing there in the ring in the corner, and that music hit, and they had the little sparklers over his entrance, and then here comes Bret, that pink and black, and Bret Hart is a guy I have so much respect for. He really is a true artist in the ring, and I give him, that's basically the highest compliment I can give the guy. And this music, this music was gritty. It was determined. There's determination in this. There's balls to it. And then it has those guitar riffs, and it's just, when you repeat that on a loop, I could listen to this song over and over and over again. And many times we would be on the road, and sometimes Bret would be running late. So this song, it might play, 3 minutes before Bret actually got to the ring. Most time he was on time, but sometimes that would happen. And you never got tired of this thing on a loop because the song was just so damn good. Let's talk about your guitar chops. What kind of rig were you using on this? Because you had a really good sound.
That was probably a Marshall amp with, what guitar was that? I don't even remember which guitar it was. It was probably a Stratocaster.
Right.
Through a Marshall amp and through probably a whole bunch of different pedals. But this is another interesting I can give you some more trivia here, Steve.
I'll go for it.
This originally started, the basic da-da-da-da-da was another Jimmy Hart, J.J. Maguire thing, but the first version they did was this thin little, I don't even think they used real guitars. I think they used like a synthesizer, so it was like, and there was no lead guitars. So Vince would come to me and say, the basic guitar figure is good, but can you take this someplace, and give it some balls? And
right.
So I started from scratch and, gave it a much bigger drum beat, and then there's much thicker guitars. And then I just decided to let loose and have some fun on those little breaks in between, and I was stretching strings clear off the neck on that one.
Dude, you sound like you're a hell of a damn lead player.
I'm okay. I'm not nearly what a lot of these great guys can do. And I mean, one thing that I really can't do is, the kind of Zakk Wylde where it's like the guy's playing so fast as you're saying, how can a human being move their fingers that fast?
Right.
I can't do that super shredding kind of thing, but I've never wanted to. I would rather, stylistically, I tend to like guitarists who pick their notes more carefully. I'd rather have 5 perfect notes than 10,000 notes that just fly by that don't have much meaning.
You hit it right on the head there, Jim. Because that's the same thing in the ring. I mean, you can throw 20 punches, and it could be okay. But if you throw 5 good ones that really knock that guy's head off and mean something, the audience is getting much more out of that, and you're making much more of a statement. So I would agree with you just from a stylistic thing, just from being in the ring, from execution to what you're saying on an audio level, audio-wise, on a song and music.
I think it's a great analogy because, take that analogy one step further. It's so powerful when, in one scenario, a guy has his opponent down, and then he's just sort of needlessly jumping on the guy numerous times and pounding. And, it's okay, the guy's down. But versus the guy's down, he tries to get up, and in such a focused way, the guy goes over and just gives him one last shot.
Yeah.
And it makes you so damn evil. It's like, my God, the guy was down, for God's sake. Did you really need to do that? But it's like a heat seeker,
Yeah.
It's so powerful. So yeah, it truly is. One of the truest things in life is less is more.
Less is more. Yeah. I agree with you. Hey, dig this. Oh, she's giving me chills up and down my spine. Oh no, he's coming. I usually forgot everything I was going to do when this happened. Wait for it. God dang, Jim, that's got to be one of your best ever. When Undertaker went from WCW, whatever it was, and then he showed up, I guess it was, I don't know if he's still Mean Mark, what the hell they were doing with him in WCW. And all of a sudden he shows up as the Undertaker when WWE was WWF. You talk about intimidation. First of all, there's nobody who could have been the Undertaker other than Mark. He was the absolute perfect guy to be that guy. Man, I'll tell you what, he was so scary. When they showed the kids in the second and third row, they were really scared of this guy. People were. And he come across with this dominance, that character, the slow walk, the whole package. One of my favorite gimmicks of all time. He's been there for over 20 years. And this music, this was the final nail in the coffin, no pun intended. This was the best song. This might be one of your best songs ever. How do you feel about this? Take me through this process, how you created this masterpiece, because I love this song.
This is interesting because I think I got a call from Vince and asking for a piece of music, and I said, well, so what's the vibe? What's the description? It's like, well, it's a dead guy, and I'm like, he's actually dead, or we won't see him. I mean, what? No, he's this like a 7-foot dead guy comes out in all in black, and so I was really stumped, and finally I was sitting at the piano and. I thought, okay, dead, funeral, sad, and I wrote this little piano piece. I wish all your listeners could be here. I'd play it for you. But the way I originally wrote it, it's the most delicate, soft, pretty, sad thing. And after writing it, I knew that was right, but I also knew it was totally wrong. It's like, okay, I knew the bones on this, the foundation was right, but what set of clothes I was going to put on it, I didn't know yet.
Right.
But I knew it couldn't be that piano. So I thought, okay, so think funeral at St. Patrick's Cathedral. It's this church organ you can imagine, and choirs, and there would be thunder and lightning happening, and so in a very similar way to yours, I had so I went down that road, had the whole composition done, and then the recording done, and I needed an intro, and I just thought just the notion of a bell came to me as being the bell tolls for dead people, but it also has a very mystical, magical quality to it. But I needed a bell suitable to a 7-foot man, and just like your glass break is the car crash and some glass, and the bell is 2 bells and a big bass sound, a big bass pluck to give it size and weight.
Right.
And so it started that, and then so I just wanted it to be creepier, so I had the bell, and then I added the sort of the choir chants to make it almost like something really bad is going to happen here. And there you go again. Mark is a great dancer. He knew how to work that theme and go out and talk about walk softly and carry a big stick.
Oh, jeez.
He would just take his time and again, what I was saying earlier about my goal is always just to make the audience feel something, or to be able to have that music start playing and have your emotional state be instantly changed. No matter what you're feeling this second, it's going to be a different feeling the next second. And when those lights, when Kevin would hit the lights and that bell would hit, it's like, oh my God. And by the way, Kevin Dunn, our executive producer, deserves a good shout out here, because that guy has great timing. He knows how to, over the years, he got great at hit the lights, but not necessarily hit the bell right away.
Right.
It be such a powerful entrance, just the hitting the lights. Everyone had a shiver go up their spine. Everyone had goosebumps just on the dark. So then when the bell would hit, it's like, okay, now the goosebumps are like large pimples. I mean, it's off the chart. And then when the music kicks in, ramp it up some more. And then he finally comes out, so it just keeps ramping up and up and up. And for Mark, who does such a spectacular job, he even took it all the way to the ring, where he would then do the thing, drop to his knee and, look to the heavens, and you don't know, okay, who is he looking to, praying to, thanking,
Yeah.
but it just made it all the more magical, this connection with another world that you and I could never understand, but that he did. Really cool.
How
really
long
cool
did
stuff.
it take you to write that damn song? You can't tell me 8 hours.
Oh, well, to write it, probably an hour, but then to record it, a day, I guess.
Okay, but when you say write it, how did you write it? Because you're not writing music.
In this case, I sat down at the piano, and I just kept playing stuff until something came out. But I was playing a bunch of stuff, and it didn't work. And it wasn't until I kind of got my mind focused around, okay, it's a dead guy. So anything having to do with dead guy, it would be something that's sort of sad. As soon as I got my own emotions in that place, then I started playing something that was probably incredibly close to the final thing. So it's really strange, Steve. Sometimes stuff just arrives like it, just a gift. I don't. It's a mysterious process, but that was one of those times where it just suddenly, I did my half of the bargain, that I sat there and just kept playing, and then this thing showed up, and I knew that was the right thing. So,
but and you really can't force the issue, can you, Jim? Because it has to come at the right time, and it will. And sometimes it's longer. Sometimes it's longer than other times. But forcing the issue, that's not what it's about.
Absolutely, it's a mysterious process. It is you're creating something. Every single time you're starting with a blank piece of paper. So you can't just decide like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to force the issue. I'm going to be in control of this process. You're not. The best results happen when you completely realize you're not in control of anything here. That you have to completely let yourself go and just play and see what happens. And, once you do that, that's when all the good stuff happens.
Hey, I didn't bring up Hakushi's music, but I know that there's almost a tie-in with the Undertaker's music, because I think you told Vince and you handed him this piece of music, and it was kind of like on the other end of the spectrum. So tell me about Hakushi's music. I mean, because it's a beautiful song, but, not as scary, not dark, white, peaceful, how would you describe that song? And he came out in all white, but what was the story behind you handing Vince this song, and you never thought it'd appear, all of a sudden Hakushi comes out, and then Vince is using the music that you presented him?
I just came up with an idea one day for a piece of music. It wasn't for anything or anyone. It was just probably playing around with some new piece of equipment or some new sounds or something. And that day I was doing some orchestral stuff and just playing around, and I came up with this idea and then fleshed it out, and it was very angelic. And after I was done, I was thinking, this could work for someone who's, yes, exactly as you put it, the other end of the whatever that spectrum may be, life and death or good and evil, who knows? I don't know what it is. But the other end of the spectrum of Undertaker. And so I gave it to Vince, and I said, I've got this idea for you, and if you want to use it, great. And Vince is an interesting guy. At first he was like, it got his attention, but he didn't really, there was certainly no one he knew that he could turn into this guy. And I think it was maybe a year later that he came up with Hakushi, and just suddenly this music starts playing, and I was like, oh, I remember that.
Yeah. Jim, I've been to your studio there in Stanford, and if it's the same one, I guess it's the same one. I mean, do you have people that come in there and help you write? It's just you down there in a cave.
It's just me down here in the cave, yeah.
Obviously, you do an outstanding job, but, I mean, you've lasted a long time. I've seen so many people come and go over there, not wrestlers, people on the inside. And you've weathered through the storm. 30 WrestleManias, WrestleMania 30 coming up. With WWE Network starting to go, 224? Is that when it's going?
I believe that's the start date.
I mean, are you going to be called into more action to deliver more songs for more content?
Oh, everyone in this whole production facility already has, as we're preparing all this great content. It's a very interesting time, and I think it's a very interesting concept, because if you look at the entire business of TV, the holy grail for people, if you're in series television, is to get the syndication.
Right.
Where now, you're like NCIS or something, it plays endlessly on USA Today and other places. And so you're getting payback on your investment now without having to create new shows. And it's something that we have never done. And now we will finally have the outlet to, for people who want to go back and watch all that great stuff, the bedpan with Vince, you and Vince, and all the great stuff that you and Vince.
Well, that and all the other federations. The WWE network is going to be. I think it's a bold move. I think it's an extremely smart move, especially when you look 2-3 years down the road to get in now with the way technology is going, with all the content that they have, with all the stuff that they're looking to create. I think it's I don't want to say a no-brainer because it took Vince's vision to realize this and his guts to go forward with it. But I think it's going to be certainly a win-win for everybody. I think it's going to be great for WWE. As I said, I think it's going to be great for WWE fans. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it. This isn't a plug for WWE Network, but I was just looking at your workload. Hey, before I let you go, Jim, you and I share a love of collecting watches. Or at least we're time fanatics. I'm more of a watch buyer. I don't buy too many more expensive watches anymore.
You really love watches. I only have 2 watches, so I'm definitely not a collector. And I wear only one watch the vast majority of the time because it has great sentimental value to me. But, yeah, I find them incredibly fascinating devices. That we measure our lives by them, and also watches have become I don't know, it's a big statement about yourself that you can send to the world, and yes, you and I have shared our appreciation for them. You had some pretty cool watches, much cooler than mine. Mine's
when it all comes down to it for me, though, I'm just like a type A personality. I'm always in a hurry and I can't be late. So, and I'm more of a watch buyer. I don't get the stuff that's, the older watches, the vintage stuff. But with all the stuff that you're doing, being trapped there in the cave, and I say that in jest, with music being such a big part of your life, what kind of hobbies do you have? What do you do, for downtime to relax your brain?
Not enough, really, because it's working most of the time, and I have a small studio set up at home, and so even on weekends I'm working. But the truth is, I love writing music, and it really is a passion. When I get away, as I said earlier, I love fly fishing. That's a really good thing. I like, it's great to get away with my wife and just go someplace interesting and hang out. Once a winter we try to go down somewhere and where it's warm, and just hang out and drink umbrella drinks, and I can do some fly fishing for bonefish. I don't know if you've ever tried that, but boy, that's so much. One of my favorites is just you walk these flats down in the Bahamas where the water's only anywhere from a foot to 3 feet deep, and it's white sand bottom, and you're trying to find these fish that cruise the flats. And so it's a combination of hunting and fishing, because you're not just casting a lure around. You don't cast your fly until you see a fish, and you're trying to see him coming across, right to left across the flat, and throw your fly out there perfectly and silently 6 feet in front of him without spooking him out, and it's just a beautiful thing. So that's one of my things. I know you still hunt, right?
Man, yeah, I spent 2 months down at the ranch. Man, we hunted our tails off, me and Ted Fowler and my buddy, and had a lot of fun down there. And I drank a lot of beer. I am in L.A. right now trying to get ready for a project. We're filming my Broken Skull Challenge for Country Music Television in March. So I am on the step climber. I'm in the gym. I'm measuring my food. I got my food laying here on the table. I'm fixing to do another show. So I hunted and drank too much. Well, I didn't hunt too much. I drank too much beer. But it was the holiday season, Jim, and I had a damn good time. Hey, man, I want to thank you for joining me here on the show. I know a lot of the people are going to be interested in hearing the background on how some of these songs were created. And also, WWE has sold over 6 million albums. And that's an incredible number because, these are basically, wrestling theme type things, and 6 million albums is a lot. The WWF, the music, in 1998, went platinum, over 1.2 million units. And so I know, these are people that are buying these songs because they love the product, but there's so many people around the world that have heard your music who might not. I know all the diehard fans, the WWE fans, know that Jim Johnston is the creative force behind these songs, but to those people that listen to the Steve Austin Show that don't get a chance to watch WWE anymore, I'm talking to the man who supplies all the music for all the superstars. I'm so thankful that he wrote my song. It meant so much and had such an impact on my career as you have impacted the careers of so many superstars. So anyway, Jim, tons of respect. I want to thank you very much for being on the show.
Oh, my God, Steve, always for you, and thanks for, I'm flattered to be invited, and thanks for having me.
You got it, Jim. I appreciate it.
Right.
I'll catch you down the road.
Okay, take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show. Please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and tell your friends. For more Steve Austin Show, go to PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
All this month, stream the funniest films for free on Pluto TV. Watch comedy classics like Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, and Mean Girls. Or drop in for a Tyler Perry marathon with a Medea family funeral and Medea's witness protection. Pluto TV also has hundreds of channels and thousands of movies and TV shows like Get Shorty, Be Cool, Key and Peele, Comedy in Color, and more. And no contracts, no subscriptions, no fees, no joke. So download the Pluto TV app on your favorite streaming device and start laughing today. Pluto TV, drop in, watch free.
Hey, this is Adam Carolla. Let me tell you about my podcast. We do it every single day, so you can subscribe, and there'll always be a fresh one waiting for you. It's about 2 hours of topical topics, and news, and guests, and comedians, and, of course, my own vitriolic take on just about everything that's going on in the world. Plus, we get a lot of really interesting, notable people who come in. We'll get politicians, we'll get tastemakers, we'll get stand-ups, we'll get authors, we'll get pundits, we'll get, what I say? Well, I think about covers it all. Celebrities as well. And we'll do some really interesting interviews with them. You can get The Adam Carolla Show wherever you download your podcast.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy, Big Brother Jake, a.k.a. Jake Warner, my government name. Check it out. I host a show called the Big Brother Jake Podcast, and I've taken my talents to the biggest and baddest platform on the planet. That's right, baby, PodcastOne. My show is unique as I talk about everything. Life, sports, entertainment, being a single dad juggling several jobs. I'm a hot mess, but it's damn entertaining. Subscribe and review now on Apple Podcasts and listen on PodcastOne or wherever you get your podcasts.